Test. Good morning, everybody. This is a live emergency briefing as we have Tropical Storm Helene that has formed in the northwestern Caribbean Sea, and it is forecast to become a major hurricane possibly as early as Wednesday. The National Hurricane Center has it early Thursday morning becoming a major hurricane. Probably will happen a little bit faster than that. And here we are going to break down the latest. Here you can see the National Hurricane Center official forecast track right up the heart of Apalachee Bay. Some of the global models are trending just a little bit east of that. Here's satellite where the low-level center is located just on the western edge of that cloud shield. And I'm going to break this down. We got satellite-derived sea surface temperatures. We got the latest hurricane models that are coming out. And we also have visible satellites so that we can actually see where the center is exactly located. And I'm going to be heading out to chase this, of course. Would definitely not miss that. It looks like the latest satellite actually shows that low-level center just evolving a little bit away from that cloud shield. So look at that. Look at that low-level center there, folks, meandering just off to the southwest. Let me see if I can circle that with my Epic pen. But look at that gyre right there. That is the low-level center, and it looks like it's migrating just a little bit out from where that convection is located. There it is on my Epic pen. This new pen that can basically make your breakfast in the morning. There's the low-level center. It has migrated out from that cloud shield just a little bit. Notice that thing is actually dropping southwest right now, that low-level center, as it's probably dealing with some latent heat release up here. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some center reformation as well before this thing heads right between that gap between the Yucatan and western Cuba. Wouldn't be surprised if it forms just a little bit closer to that convection as well, or it might just wrap this thing right back into that convection. Once again, maybe some new convection will form here with a little bit of dry air, a little bit more convective instability out there. But right now, this is forecast just to, in general, continue off to the northwest, pass right between the Yucatan and Cuba, and then head into the eastern Gulf of Mexico, where you have the very warm waters of the loop current. And so this has been confirmed as a tropical storm. And also, it should be noted that it did have a closed low-level center yesterday, but without that being coupled to deep convection, it was hard to label that as a tropical cyclone. The global models, interestingly, show that eastward shift just a little bit, even with that westward track a little bit closer to the tip of the Yucatan. Notice how it heads a little bit further northeast. You got that cluster of tracks right near the Cedar Key to Horseshoe Beach area. That would take it a little bit closer to Tampa Bay, too, which would bring some of that life-threatening storm surge potentially into that area. And I did want to show you this Fujiwara interaction. This stuff is just incredible. With that low dropping down into the lower Mississippi River Valley, you've got the tropical cyclone of a slightly different scale, slightly smaller scale, and a warm core system headed off to the east. But the cold core system, I think, over Arkansas is probably going to be just a little bit more stagnant than what some of these forecast models are showing. And that's because I believe that it's a cold core system. Should be just a little bit stagnant as well, but I wanted to break down this Fujiwara interaction just a little bit more in detail because I think that it does play an important role in its exact track. And some of the earlier GFS models were showing this upper level low to drop down into the lower Mississippi River Valley, and then once that hurricane comes up through the eastern Gulf of Mexico, it actually retrogrades back into eastern Texas. But that was an older run, and I figured that the European model was a little bit more accurate, having kind of a less progressive cold core upper level system than some of the other forecast models were showing. And watch as we drop this down. That's actually the next upper level low. This one comes down from the Midwest down into the lower Mississippi River Valley. Initially, it has that positive tilt. See how the trough axis kind of is oriented like this. Probably a little bit more neutrally tilted than that is evident. I remember all that drama that came out before in the weather community about trough tilt. But look at that thing drop down into the lower Mississippi River Valley. Notice how the, at least in this latest update of the GFS, this cold upper level low is more stubborn, hangs over Arkansas, northern Louisiana a little bit, rather than retrograding back into northeastern Texas and eastern Oklahoma. But you do have a powerful hurricane coming right up into the nature coast. So I think that's why this thing heads a little bit further east, according to the global models, whereas the hurricane models take it further west. But we do have a hurricane watch that's in effect from west of Apalachicola all the way down to the Fort Myers area, and that includes Tampa Bay. Keep that in mind. That includes Tampa Bay down there, but this is Fujiwara interaction that you're seeing here. Look at that. It looks like it just heads right up into the southern Appalachians. That's going to bring 100+ mile-per-hour winds to those higher ridges up there, the Balsams, western North Carolina, Tennessee border, upstate South Carolina also. Look at that slingshot effect up through eastern Georgia, up in upstate South Carolina into western North Carolina. And notice how your upper level storm system remains relatively stagnant. See how it's just hanging there over Arkansas? Not as dramatic of that Fujiwara interaction, at least from its perspective. The magnitude of modulation that happens is all relative to the vort. So you've got that vort, you have the old tropical system lifting up through the Appalachians. And just some classic Fujiwara interaction. Some of the other models even took this tropical system and wrapped it right into that and then closed this whole deal across the southeast, which would lead to below normal temperatures and abundance of rainfall. It's definitely going to be cooler than normal on the backside of this in Oklahoma, especially if this is able to retrograde just a little bit more. But that's why I think I'm going to probably side with the global models a little bit. They have a better handle on that interaction with the upper level trough. And you also have this high pressure located to the east of it, a bit of a blocking high, closed low to the west, and that causes a squeeze play right up into the middle. And it's just whether it heads up right up the gap of Apalachee Bay. Does it head off the east side of the bay? How close does it come to Tampa too? If this thing comes right up just closer to Tampa, that'll bring that dangerous storm surge also into the Tampa area. And here are some of the forecast models. The HAFS-A model, this is last night, 6Z run. And you can definitely see that it is the HAFS-A model is back with its old intense solutions. That's a 921 millibar low on approach to the nature coast. I do think that it probably is a little off on some of the ocean air fluxes, heat fluxes, and that's why a lot of the convective allowing models will cause these like drop like to 880 millibars. So I think you're getting a little bit of that with the HAFS-A, but really just shows that you have a very prime environment for rapid intensification. Here's Cedar Key with this scenario. Here's Horseshoe Beach. Here's St. Mark's off to the north. There's Apalachicola. And this is the periphery here of Apalachee Bay. You've also got Tampa Bay just to the south of it. Onshore flow is going to be piling up water into the Tampa Bay area as well as that hurricane passes just to the west of it. So definitely heed those hurricane watches. Even if the winds aren't going to be insane, you could easily get that big storm surge into the Tampa area. You could also get some passing supercells out here too. I think that the tornado efficiency with these tropical cyclones is more related to how vigorous the convection is with the tropical cyclone, how well it's coupled with the Madden-Julian oscillation as well. So I think that there is a lot more at play with these tropical cyclones, at least in terms of their tornado production. But the HAFS-A model does take this awfully close to the Tampa Bay area. And you never know if these are just going to do a hard right-hand turn until the last second. Remember, Ian did that into southwestern Florida, but you're likely going to have a tornado outbreak here across central northern Florida peninsula ahead of that. This is 4 p.m. Thursday. So the models are slowing down just a little bit, and it looks like it's going to be more of a late afternoon Thursday into Thursday evening type of a landfall. You got Cedar Key out here. You got Horseshoe Beach just to the north of it, Steinhatchee, St. Mark's as well. All of those areas could see a 6 to 10 foot storm surge too, right around the periphery of Apalachee Bay, which is bigger than Adalia. Now, let's take a look at some of these other models. HMON placement in the eastern Apalachee Bay does seem to be relatively consistent, and the intensity is remarkably consistent as well, showing this being a very high-end Category 3+ type of a hurricane, and I think it definitely shows kind of the prime environment for rapid intensification out here. This one passes just a little bit to the west of Tampa, kind of heads right up toward the Keaton Beach area. That would bring that dangerous portion of the storm right up into Keaton Beach. You've got Cedar Key that would also be very dangerous, and a big storm surge all the way down the west coast of Florida that would result from this. So we're looking at these new models. The new hurricane models are going to be coming out. We'll go back toward the HWRF. And we are just waiting for these new models to pop out, the new hurricane models. Global models, let's head back on over to the GFS. And satellite-derived oceanic heat content. Another issue with this hurricane is that it's going to be moving right over the warm waters of the loop current. The loop current is located in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and it'll kind of transport some of these warm waters out of the Northwest Caribbean Sea right up the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And this hurricane is going to be moving right along that loop current. You've also got that upper level system over the lower Mississippi River Valley, a little bit of ascent ahead of that, especially if it's more of an asymmetric type of a system. But in terms of that oceanic heat content, very warm environment out there. And in terms of the rainfall, at least this thing is going to be moving a little bit. So that's why the Weather Prediction Center has a moderate risk out there. And that includes upstate South Carolina as well. That includes the Greenville area, Travelers Rest, up into western North Carolina, and the Atlanta metro. So if we head back to the HWRF model, watch what this does after it moves inland, folks. I was saying makes landfall as like a 920, 930 millibar central pressure type storm. That might be it. That's it. New models. Oh no, not quite. It's still Monday. But watch what happens as that moves inland. And these do have remarkable run-to-run consistency too, but that right there, folks, is a 963 millibar central pressure tropical cyclone right over Atlanta. That would be causing major freaking problems in Atlanta, wind damage, flooding potential. You'd have tornado warnings here, central into upstate South Carolina. You're going to have 100-plus mile-per-hour winds at the ridge tops here, near the Tennessee-North Carolina border up into the Smoky Mountains. You're going to have onshore flow up here too, flash flooding, debris plugs, ripping downhill from the mountains. And look at this convective band here, individual supercell storms. Within each of those bands, those are basically a log jam of supercell storms, folks. That's going to be like right over the Smoky Mountains is like a 975 millibar tropical cyclone. Looks like early Friday morning where it passes through upstate South Carolina, northern Georgia. And there you can see it. The HWRF, at least the 18Z HWRF yesterday, was further west. The 6Z HWRF did shift just a little bit to the east and back to that stronger solution, the 922 central pressure. And there's Cedar Key. This would bring a big 6 to 10 foot storm surge right in there. Anywhere where the inner core of this hurricane interacts, you're going to probably have a double-digit type of a storm surge, maybe even down into Tampa Bay as well, where Baker Mayfield is just dominating down there. But I'm going to be headed out to chase this. We are going to provide updates from the ground, of course. Look at that gyre with this updated satellite imagery. It's a gyre, but it's actually the center of Tropical Storm Helene. This thing is moving southwest, everybody. And it's probably going to wrap this whole slug of convection here all the way around it eventually. Just seems like it decoupled from the convection a little bit, that center of Helene, moving off toward the southwest. This will probably eventually head more off to the due west and then wrap up the convection. But a lot of times with the complex topography too, at the tip of the Yucatan and western Cuba, even that can encourage a little bit of wobbling. And even with tornadoes, you get interaction of the weather phenomena. It's trying to pull some of this convection into it as well. So interesting little hole there, maybe a little dry pocket of dry air. Oh, look at that thing spin. Definitely decoupled a little bit from the convection. It was interesting that last night's H-WRF kept it as a very powerful hurricane, whereas the HAFSA and B models a little bit less. But boy, the HASF-B model, this is the updated model, folks. 12Z new model is out. So let's see how accurate it does. It does look like it migrated that center a little bit to the south, at least of the deeper convection. It does kind of have this convective plume wrapping all the way around. That'll wrap right around the center of the tropical cyclone. But it does look like, at least that the HAFS-B model does have that center kind of migrating out from the deeper convection, which would be relatively accurate. That's tonight, of course, so it tries to wrap that convection around, getting a little bit closer to the Yucatan. That's 18Z Tuesday. This is 15Z right about now, so it did a pretty good job having this center a little bit exposed, decoupled from this larger convective plume, and it also even showed that convection over to the southwest of it and a little bit of that dry patch right over the center. So this new HASF-B model did a fairly good job, even though it only goes out to 21 hours. It's coming in right now. You are seeing it here, folks. It tries to get it a little bit better organized as it gets closer to the tip of the Yucatan and actually makes landfall near Cozumel tonight at like 6Z tonight. Definitely seems like we're trending a little bit slower. So that thing actually comes onshore to the Yucatan tonight. That's a westward shift that's happening there. So we're definitely going to have some surprises with this tropical cyclone. Helene. Helene. Right over the northeastern tip of the Yucatan. You see I got a nice lather going, a nice sweat. It's because I'm so fired up right now. I've had like 6 cups of coffee so far this morning. And the HASF-B model is coming in hot. HASF-A model coming up. HAFS-A. Take a look at some of the Hurricane Hunter aircraft data coming in. We'll go over to tropicaltidbits.com. Pretty awesome website for this stuff. It does show, this is the latest aircraft data, it does show a lot of the stronger winds are obviously with that convection off to the north of it a little bit. Back near the center, not quite as much in the way of strong winds. It's like they didn't really sample the center of it, did they? It's right out here. Definitely some good, strong flight level winds, though, off to the northeast of it, 50 to 55 knots. Starting to get, yeah, that westerly wind there, right in the southwest side of the circulation was key. Northeast as well to the northeast of it, stronger winds. It's like you got some decent winds here, right in the northeastern quadrant of that circulation, as that gyre was probably in the process of migrating out from the deeper convection. Yeah, these are the updated hurricane models that are coming in. 12Z Tuesday, that's the morning model run. Yeah, 21 hours from now. That's why you have that hurricane watch that's still in effect out here for the Yucatan. Let's go back to the official National Hurricane Center cone as well. 11 a.m., 1,000 millibar central pressure. I want to just show you some of these watches and warnings. The M stands for major hurricane. Just in case you didn't know. That pink area, that is your hurricane watch. And that stretches from the west of Apalachicola all the way down to Fort Myers, including the Tampa Bay area. So, and even if a major hurricane passes just to the west of Tampa Bay, you're going to have that dangerous storm surge right up into Tampa Bay. 6 to 10 foot storm surge around the periphery of Apalachee Bay. That's a major hurricane right there, M. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a major hurricane a little earlier. Right now, it looks like Wednesday night into Thursday morning is when that could happen. And it's possible that it could even come ashore right near Cozumel, right at the tip of the Yucatan. Tropical storm warnings in blue. Hurricane watch even at the tip of the Yucatan, just in case it does intensify even more. I probably should just head down there and chase it, get it early down here at the tip of the Yucatan, see if I can get back up, fly into Atlanta or something, and then work the inland area from a storm chaser perspective. There's just so much stress and drama with getting down on the coast, the inner core of the eye of the hurricane, especially these days with a lot of storm chasers out there. Police trying to keep everybody from the coast. We're trying to deploy sensors out there, trying to measure the pressure data. Oh boy, some of the models are taking this up toward Virginia too later as it goes inland. Looks like they are wrapping it around that low as it settles down in toward the lower Mississippi River Valley. We're still going to have a lot of surprises with this, everybody. Let's take a look really quick at what the 12Z hurricane intensity models look like. And they have spiked back up. They are spiking back up. Even a couple of these, a couple of 4 models showing that, those hurricane models, ship model, it's a little bit less up to category 3, the intensity model. A lot of those hurricane models are showing that intensity up into category 4. Yesterday evening, they came back down to cat 2, cat 3, back up. These are just kind of a windshield wiper effect here of hurricane intensity. The official takes it up to category 3 strength. And you also have these clusters on a little bit further south that just don't even organize it at all. But I guess given the favorable environment, the warm sea surface temperatures, 31 degrees C type raw temperatures, you only need the sea surface temperatures to really be above 27 degrees C to get rapid intensification. And I'm not really sure how sensitive hurricane strength is, but it does seem like we're getting more in the way of rapidly intensifying hurricanes, even these Gulf hurricanes. That area in orange, that's 8 to 12 inches, folks, right up into the Florida Big Bend. Wouldn't be surprised if you get a lot more, though, in this region with that further east track. It also brings like 6 to 8 inches, 4 to 8, up into the Tampa Bay area with a lot of those feeder bands coming onshore. But if this does take a little bit further east of a track, that would also bring the heavier rain over this portion of eastern Georgia. I'm still leaning a little bit toward that eastern track. I think it's probably going to take something like this. And that'll bring the dangerous side right up into this very storm surge prone area just to the north of Tampa Bay. That would bring that onshore flow into Tampa Bay as well. Let me even make sure I'm live. Sometimes I'll do these whole live streams and I won't even know that my live got shut down. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Looks like we are still live. I just got back from our big speaking event in Chicago with the Dominator, so I don't quite have time to drive the 16 hours all the way down there. And for that reason, we're going to fly in, do the rental car thing again, keep it in high ground. Look at the Fujiwara interaction between the 6Z GFS and the 0Z European model. See, the European, I think, is more accurate. If you have a cold upper level storm system, and even if you have a hurricane that comes into the warm sector of that upper level storm system, the upper level storm system is cold core. It's like a bowling ball, just has a little bit more mass, in my opinion. And so that's why I've always been a believer in that European model solution with a more stagnant upper level low. See how it doesn't retrograde into northeastern Texas as much? I think you're going to have a lot more stubborn of that upper level low over the lower Mississippi River Valley. And that Fujiwara interaction might end up taking the tropical cyclone a little further east, right over the eastern portion of Apalachee Bay. Right up there. It's like a spoke on a wheel. This thing's just going to rip up into the Appalachians right around the northern edge of that vort. There's your vortex, closes off over the lower Mississippi River Valley, and then just pumps this off to the north. You got your high pressure off to the southeast. That's obviously going to prevent it from going out to sea. And it likes to take that squeeze play right down the middle. Right down the middle, folks. We're going to be going live on this. Gizmo's doing better this morning. I was thinking about bringing Gizmo down to it, but my buddy Matt Sanis is going to be watching Gizmo. May 3rd, 1999 Chase Crew. It does look like it's slowing down just a little bit, folks. Yeah, we're looking at the GFS. This is the 0Z last night GFS. Zooming in a little closer on our Fujiwara interaction. You can see that from 0Z to 12Z, it showed a stronger hurricane right up Horseshoe Beach, folks. Eastern edge of Apalachee Bay. I think the global models might have a slightly better handle on this system. Here's the 12Z GFS. That's some consistency. 0Z last night, 6Z this morning, 12Z this morning. Takes it right up into the eastern portion of Apalachee Bay. That would bring a dangerous storm surge up into Cedar Key. Dangerous storm surge into Tampa Bay as well, as it passes just to the west of that area. Got to be kidding me with that. Got to be kidding me with this. Looks like a slightly east side loaded system on the GFS is being shown. Probably due to that slingshot effect that you're seeing there. That would be Thursday afternoon at like 4 p.m. is probably when you would get that big surge just piping right up into the Tampa Bay area. Man, that's right into Cedar Key on the latest GFS, 12Z GFS. Look at that slingshot effect there coming right up into eastern Apalachee Bay. That brings a very dangerous, like 10 to 12 foot storm surge into Cedar Key. Be big problems right there. Storm chasers, you got to know what you're dealing with if you haven't chased a big hurricane like this, because you easily could get your vehicle swamped. You could be in a rescue situation, a life-threatening situation up there. It could easily happen. And you got to be very careful when you're out chasing this stuff. It can be a career ender, trust me, and you do not want to exhaust rescue resources. Whenever I'm out storm chasing, I tell everybody, do not rescue me, even if I need it. I don't want it. And as a storm chaser, never put yourself in that position. Look at this dangerous onshore flow here. East side loaded hurricane. That is the worst case scenario here. You should have offshore flow if it takes this track near Apalachicola, but looks like a bit of an east side loaded system, maybe experiencing just a little bit of wind shear right as it comes into landfall there. But wow, look at that. This is the 12Z GFS that we are looking at here, folks. Let's see what the central pressure is down to in this thing. $978, $972, $977. So a little weaker at the GFS, but the hurricane models do a much better job on intensity. I like to use the hurricane models more for placement and GFS more for global models, more for placement, hurricane models more for intensity, structure of the hurricane. But that would bring a very dangerous storm surge into the Cedar Key area. Just for fun, let's see what the NAM shows. NAM shows a strong hurricane coming right up the pipe there of Apalachee Bay. So very similar to what the National Hurricane Center has. As you can see, so looks to me like this is just going to head right up the heart of Apalachee Bay And but right now the global models are showing a little bit more of the eastern edge of the bay. Still could be some surprises. Don't be surprised if it does end up turning off to the east a little bit more even. But to me, it looks like it should pass to the west of Tampa Bay, of course. Global models are still a little weaker, so probably an average between the two. I think a Cat 3 does seem reasonable, kind of like an Adalia type of a scenario. Seems very reasonable for this, maybe even a little bit stronger than that. But you definitely can't ignore some of those models that are just showing those asinine low pressures. You can't ignore it. It basically probably depicts the highest ceiling for the tropical cyclone at the very least. Get the icon model. 0Z last night's icon. Let's look at the 12Z icon. Ooh. Icon model is also with that furthest east track. This is the 12Z icon, folks. Look at that. It also has that Cedar Key area being in a very dangerous storm surge prone area. And this thing has a very low pressure, 947. You're looking at the icon model. This would definitely be a very strong hurricane, Cat 3 plus. Out there, and it's coming right into this very storm surge prone Apalachee Bay. It's a very dangerous onshore flow would be coming into this hurricane here, folks. And also the icon depicts a little bit further south of a track that would bring that dangerous surge right up Tampa Bay. And you'd be talking like a 6 to 10 foot storm surge type there. So the icon model also shifting a little bit further east. I think that these models, the global models, also have a very good handle on that Fujiwara interaction. But boy, these are still further west. It's model guidance. And that's why the official track still just has it right up the pipe there of Apalachee Bay. It does look like a couple of new models are taking it further west, with the HAFSB model even showing a landfall tonight near the tip of the Yucatan. It's relatively low lying there, so that won't do too much to it. But I do remember seeing an AI-generated map that the further west this thing goes, it might overcorrect a little bit and end up going further east. So just because it's going further west early in its track doesn't mean it's going to be further west through the whole thing. But that could lead to some changes of it. And right now the center is still kind of propagating a little bit away from it, suggesting that a further west track might be more accurate. So maybe something like that. But a lot of these models definitely show that upper level low just dominating, and for the whole remnant to just wrap around the northern edge of that upper level low with the Fujiwara interaction. Definitely thank you, Team Dominator members, for making these updates possible. Thank you so much. And we are going to be heading out there to chase this immersive coverage. That's what we do, even for the storm surge. Ooh, what is that? God, the HAFSB model. It's remarkable how good these models are, especially when they're initialized with new Hurricane Hunter data. But it looks like we got a new hot tower that's trying to develop right near the center, right in that little area of dry air, right near the center of it too. Little supercell storm right near the center of that thing. That's called a hot tower, even though it's relatively cold because it extends high in the troposphere. It's a hot tower because it's in the tropics, and when you get an abundant convection like that, you get latent heat release in the middle atmosphere. That leads to surface pressure falls. You get more convergence at the low levels, more vigorous convection, more latent heat release, and that's the positive feedback that happens with a tropical cyclone, and that's what causes them to rapidly intensify. Many of the models almost show a certainty in rapid intensification. Let's take a look at that on visible satellite. Yep. Look at that. You can definitely see that tower right there. Yep. There it is. northeastern quadrant of that little thing. We were seeing that on satellite. In general, when you get a little dry patch like this that goes over that deep moisture at the low levels, you're kind of just subtly ticking up your convective instability. And you can see that the atmosphere responds with a tower right near the center of that. And it looks like it's also turned a little bit. It's kind of stalled and is starting to move a little bit back toward the northwest again. So wouldn't be surprised if it resumes that motion. But keep in mind, the HAFSB model does show a landfall just to the north of Cozumel, very close to the Cancun area tonight as a high-end tropical storm, maybe even a low-end hurricane. So got to be kidding me with that. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this live weather report. Getting the latest here on the eventual Hurricane Helene. I'm here with Gizmo and Team Dominator headquarters. We're about to head out there to intercept this. Got to figure out logistics. We also need to watch out for this system too, way out in the Atlantic. Even though when they're way out here, usually they recurve around the western edge of a Bermuda High. Remember, though, that we do have that high pressure off the southeastern U.S. right now. And a lot of times that can kind of act as a blocker for those storms to become fish storms. And we'll kind of pump them into the Caribbean Sea, eventually the Gulf of Mexico. Timing, the arrival of those winds Thursday morning up into the nature coast of Florida. Look at the Icon model again. Icon model's done pretty good this year on these storms. And look what it does with it afterward. You got a 981 low right over my mom's place. So it looks like it tracks that low all the way inland through the Atlanta area, and eventually up into upstate South Carolina. Valdosta area, Augusta, Greenville, South Carolina, Smoky Mountains. That's probably going to bring some damage. Tropical storm conditions likely coming up through upstate South Carolina there at my mom's place. She's got a generator at least, thank goodness. And then it's possible it's going to wrap over the top of that upper level low. So thank you, everybody, for tuning into this live emergency weather report. I am going to get back toward preparations of this chase, but we are going to be going live. May run a half marathon today, too, to try to get some of the crud out of my system before this chase. But thank you, everybody, for tuning into this live weather report. Never stop chasing. I'm still live? I am. Sorry. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, I was canceled a long time ago, I think, so at least from mainstream media. So I'll probably do some pretty crazy coverage, immersive coverage at least. Thanks everybody for tuning in to this live update. Never